Hey guys, Huzzy here bringing you another video. Now welcome to a league discussion episode that we're going to just do one topic, and I think from now on, maybe with league discussions, you can let me know in the comments. Per video we might just cover one topic because I can get my teeth into it a little bit more. But today we're going to talk about meta. The meta of League of Legends, and you know, some people will be like, I don't know what that is, and that's kind of the point of the video. It's not just a basic explanation that we're going to do. It's also going to be how does the meta form. So even if you're somebody that knows what the meta is, you'll be like, I wonder why it changes, or how does it change, and why is it an AD carry and support bot lane? Where did that come from? Because I can tell you right now, it wasn't always like that. The meta evolved for where League of Legends is now, and there's a few components that goes into it. So first and foremost, the meta. Meta is basically the easiest way to explain it is it's the best current way to play League of Legends. So, you know, on average, and again, that's very important, on average, it's the best way to play currently. There's counters to the meta, but they're more niche picks. So you've got a standardized, this is how the average person will play, the average team comp will be, and it's the average strongest thing to do. And basically it's just something that most, I'd presume, video games have. You know, even in Call of Duties there's probably meta guns. That's like, these are the guns that everyone uses until something happens. A pro picks a different gun and they do really well. The game developers balance the guns, so no longer the really good guns are, they may be weak, they might be nerfed. There's a bunch of stuff that can happen, but it's not just a League of Legends thing, it's a video game thing in general. I'm sure it's a thing in many avenues in life. In motorsport, I'm sure there's a meta on certain parts that the cars use. If they get banned, then the meta has to shift. It's just the kind of way of things. So, like I kind of hinted at earlier, if you're not, you know, a very old veteran of the game of League of Legends, and I'm talking like in beta, and I'm talking season 1, you probably haven't played at the time that, you know, it's been different. That it's generally been 2 people in bot lane, 1 in mid, 1 in top, 1 jungle. That's what League has been for a long time now. It wasn't always like that. So when League first came out, it actually, you know, the AD carries of the game, a lot of them didn't go bot lane. A lot of them went mid or top. Because, you know, they were the carries and people didn't really treat it any different to just farming on a carry and carrying the game with the gold lead that you have. The problem which came into, so let's say when League was very new, it was like Ashe, Misfortune, etc. So you could have Ashe versus Misfortune in top lane. What started to happen is then a shift happened mid-season 1 that people kind of realised, ooh, bruisers beat AD carries quite badly in 1v1s. And yeah, it's a bit annoying to lane against them, but by level 6, a bruiser's too tanky and deals damage that an AD carry can't survive. So that meta started to shift from people working it out. So then you had like Ashe or Misfortune top lane against like Garen or Jax and stuff like that. And they just got outscaled by level 6, level 7 in a 1v1. And then all these AD carry players were, you know, what the hell do I do? And then, because in bot lane at the time, by the way, that's where bruisers were originally. Bruisers with a support was bot lane, and then people started to take the bruiser top. So naturally, the people that wanted to play AD carry were like, well, it's now not working for me in top lane because people are just picking these tanky bruisers that do damage. I'm going to go bot lane with the support, and I can get protected. And yeah, I've got to share my XP. I've got to share maybe a little bit of gold if they take some farm by accident or whatever. But I'm safe. And that's how you got basically to the meta that is today. That was like the first big example of like literally, well, that was a long time ago. And that's what happened. So yeah, that's a brief history for you of just how naturally something can adapt. There wasn't much intervening with Riot in that instance. They didn't really buff or nerf things a lot back then. It was a much different game. Riot kind of left things alone. A lot more than they do now. Again, there's little tweaks happening every week in League of Legends now. Back then, there was a patch maybe every 2 months to actually combat like changes and stuff like that. Again, the game wasn't as big. So that's kind of how the current meta has formed, with 2 people bot, 1 top, 1 jungle, 1 mid. Because it started obviously much differently. But then how does the meta form today? Because I think we're very much in the staple of, I think League of Legends is always going to be 2 bot. It's always going to be the 1 top, 1 jungler, 1 mid. And obviously there's been differences here and there that you've got sometimes mages in bot lane now. You know, a few years ago that was not a thing. You're more open to doing pretty much anything nowadays in the meta than you ever have been. You know, in the jungle, the diversity in jungle that you can go carry junglers, support junglers, tank junglers, weird junglers like Karthus that people used to think of the troll pick a few years ago that people still played it. There's a vast array of junglers. There's a vast array of tops. I think League of Legends right now, if you like the meta, dislike the meta, whatever, it's very open. And I think that is on purpose. The reason why I think Riot would be trying to make that happen, that to make the biggest diverse cast of champions out there, one, there have been past seasons that the meta has been very tight, that, you know, I remember the old top lane meta of 3 champions. It was you either played Jax, Renekton, or Aurelia. Or no, Jax, Renekton, or Shyvana. Aurelia was like the 4th one that was occasionally played, but it was those 3. That was it practically for a whole season, and I think it was season 3 or 4, and that's it. It was just those 3 top laners, and it was like a trifecta. If you played Jax, they'll pay Renekton into you and crush your early game. If you pick Jax, then if you pick Shyvana, they'll pick Jax. It was like a whole twist. If they picked Renekton, you'll pick Shyvana. Like, it was like a weird triangle that worked to counter each other, and that was a whole season of League of Legends. Now, in top lane, it's, you know, you've got your obviously popular picks for sure, but you can play, I'd probably say, in meta right now, that is viable, that, you know, you can play and your team won't go, what the hell are you doing? Easily 20 top laners, easily. And I think that's true for most roles. Obviously, AD carry, I think, is obviously a little bit limited, and support, really, because there's not that many of those roles. I think there's, you know, well, AD carry, there's Kai'Sa, Severe, you know, those are the main 2, let's be honest. And then you've got, like, the little ones that kind of pop up every now and then. So, yeah, AD carry is still a little bit limiting. But in the average, again, the average meta, I think this is more open than it's ever been. So how does that happen? So it happens in 2 ways. One, the game developers themselves. Like we mentioned earlier, you know, if a game developer in Call of Duty nerfs a gun, people won't use that gun anymore. It's the same with League. Riot can force meta. To a certain degree. If they really don't want something to be really strong, or they see it too strong, they'll just make it weaker, and then people won't play it as much, naturally. Or if they want a champion to become part of the meta, you know, hey, you know, they always say they don't do it, but they probably do. Hey, our skin sales aren't great on Ahri, let's give Ahri a buff. Oh, more people are playing Ahri. Oh, more people are buying skins now on the champ because they're playing it. Oh, whoops. It probably happens, let's be honest. Again, I don't blame them. It's a free-to-play game. They've got to make their money. That's fine. But yeah, they can force that aspect of the meta. That is what I'd call direct affecting the meta. That you know, it's a champion change that is either making it stronger or weaker. The second way is indirectly buffing or nerfing champions, and that is usually through either runes or items. Or the third way is a champion that is known as a counter to another champion is getting changed. So let's just break those down. So first one is items. If items are getting buffed or nerfed and a particular champion has great synergy with an item, even if that champion gets unchanged, if that item gets changed that they use and it gets buffed, it's a buff to that champion. You know, for example, if Tiamat got buffed, Renekton, Jax, etc. would be also then getting a buff because they use those items all the time. The same, obviously, if an item gets nerfed, even if the champion doesn't get changed, but if it's a core item on that champion, again, think of Triforce, a bunch of champions would be getting nerfed indirectly because they use that item every single game. So that's one way. Second way is obviously runes. If a champion is dependent on a rune and, you know, let's for example say Dark Harvest. When Dark Harvest first came out, most champions in League were using it, it was that strong. And then slowly they nerfed it, they nerfed it, they nerfed it. And nowadays there's only really one champion that will use it 100% of the time, and that's Karthus. So if Dark Harvest gets nerfed now, you're basically indirectly nerfing Karthus as well, even if you don't touch the champion himself. If you buff Dark Harvest, you're then also kind of buffing Karthus. So that's kind of the indirect way. And then the third way is a indirect buff or nerf to a champion depending what you're doing to other champions. So again, if you think of a counter, any counter in the game, I don't know, you got Renekton versus Jax, okay? So Renekton counters Jax's early game, but obviously Jax counters Renekton's late game. What happens if you buff Jax's early game? What that does is nerf Renekton, because Renekton is known as a counter to Jax's early game, but you're making Jax's early game stronger. So in retrospect, you're making Renekton weaker in that matchup. Same goes for if you obviously nerf something and something's known, oh, that's a counter of mine, but Riot's nerfing it. Oh, I'm stronger in that matchup now. So those are the main 3 ways that Riot can directly affect and indirectly affect the meta. They can just buff or nerf things and the game will adapt and change. Obviously as well, new champions can affect the meta quite heavily because a new champion kind of disturbs the norm because it's something brand new. Reworks go into this pattern as well because usually when a buff, a new champion or a rework comes out, Riot's not the best with balance when something's brand new, and I think the big reason for that is, one, they have a very limited playtest team. I think there's only about 10 to 15 members in there, so, you know, you're not getting the biggest span of players who are playing these champions. You're getting the same players all the time. And they're all very high quality. Usually they're ex-pros and stuff like that. And also the PBE server that, you know, they say they use for testing, it's a joke server. It's not a testing server. Half the time people complain that, you know, their champion's getting banned, you know, that they're trying to test. You know, it's not a good testing server. And I really wish Riot actually cleaned up on the PBE because it's actually very toxic as well. And that's why for me on PBE, I only play custom games of viewers nowadays. I used to do normals and ranked in the PBE. No more. It's a worse experience than live servers, and you're supposed to be helping the game by testing the new things. It's just not on, and that's why I think Riot struggles with balance when a champion comes out. So a new champion can affect the meta instantly because it's just something brand new. You don't exactly know what the counters are straight away. You don't exactly know what the optimized item build is, but everyone wants to play it. Everyone wants to see what the new champion is. So, you know, Kiana's coming out. It'll cause a ripple in the meta, potentially. Usually it's either a ripple in the meta and the meta actually changes to the new champion, or the champion is so weak that the meta doesn't change at all. Those are the 2 normal things that happen. It's rare that a new champion's released and nothing happens. That's rare. It has happened. Sure, it's happened. Like Yuumi, in a weird way. Yuumi is new and different. Has it changed the bot lane meta? Not really. You know, maybe like hook champions are a little bit more popular to catch the Yuumi when she's not inside somebody, but like not really. Then the other way, okay, so that's the way that Riot affects the meta. So that's number 1. Number 2 is pro play. Pro play heavily affect, or we can kind of bundle together. Pro play, high yellow play, and YouTubers surprisingly have a very big pull on what the meta is, because what you can describe is trickle down gameplay. So usually what happens is somebody kind of really good at the game sees something, you know, there's a lot of number crunchers in Challenger. They're literally number crunching, you know, ratios and how much damage things are dealing. They number crunch it, they theory craft it, they try it out. Hey, this is broke, no one's playing it. And then other Challenger people start to see it. And then a pro player starts to see it. Pro player then decides, I'm going to practice this in scrims. Oh, it is really good. I'm going to take it in LCS or LEC or LCK in Korea. And then a lot of people then watch it and like, whoa, that new thing's crazy. And then those people who are watching it then play it, and then boom, you're getting the trickle down effect. Again, the same thing of a lesser effect. Obviously, pro play is the biggest way that happens. But again, YouTubers, I'm sure, again, I'm not a massive YouTuber by any means, but I'm sure I've done things here and there that people go, oh, damn, I like what Huzz is doing. I'm going to try that. I know Jace has been one recently that we played a bunch of Jace. Even though Jace has a negative win rate overall when I was playing him, he had a 48% win rate. I saw in the comments, oh, Huzz, I picked up Jace because of you. It's trickled down. That's also how a meta can change. People are playing things because they're watching other people do it. And again, I think it's a lesser effect than what Riot can do, because Riot can directly affect the balance of the game. But it's definitely something you can't ignore. Again, I think pro play far does it bigger and more. And again, there are positives and negatives to that, because again, pro play is inherently different to solo queue, even flex queue. So in pro play, for example, they played, what was it, Pyke top lane in recent, was it mid MSI? And the thing with Pyke top lane is he's not balanced for top lane, but whoever picked it, I can't remember what team, they would have picked it knowing, going into that game, they were playing Pyke top. They would have built a team comp around knowing that, because Pyke does have some big weaknesses. His damage output is meh if he's having a meh game. His damage output is really good if he's having a great game, and he's an execute damage that doesn't do a lot of sustained damage. So what that team comp would have needed would be sustained damage to make sure they've got enough damage for the Pyke to then do the executes. In solo queue, You don't have that luxury, so you don't have a team comp that's going to build around you going Pyke top. So I've seen a bunch of Pyke top lanes since that happened. You know, the next couple weeks, they were all over the place. None of them really did well. Maybe one in maybe 10 that I saw, because again, they just didn't have the team comp to make it work, or that top laner just had no idea how to play Pyke top. They just saw it, oh, that person's playing Pyke top in MSI, it must be good, without any thinking. Even in like Diamond 1, I'll play it in solo queue. So that's the negative of what can happen with pro play meta, you know, kind of shifting. Be careful with that. But that's basically it. So I thought I'd make this video because it's for people that are newish to the game for sure, because they're like, I don't even know what the meta is. I hear the word all the time, what the hell is the meta? But also for you guys who are maybe a little bit, you know, you played the game for a few years, maybe you've learned a thing here or there, maybe you didn't know that AD carries used to play top lane back in Season 1. And now you know how it kind of adapted and got to where we are now. And what I'd say in the comment section, let me know what your favourite meta has been. My personal favourite meta was Season 3. Again, it's probably like fake nostalgia that, you know, when you're looking back in years, you kind of remember all the good things and you kind of forget about the bad things. I think a classic example of that is WoW Classic coming soon. I'm not interested in it, and I think a lot of people will love it. They'll have a great time, but I think a lot of them are remembering the really high good moments and forgetting how farm and time-consuming that thing is. Which is the same for League. I very, you know, fondly remember Season 3, but if Riot was like, we're going to open, you know, a lot of you loved Season 3, we're going to open a server for you guys to go back in time and play Season 3, I wouldn't be interested. I wouldn't personally go back in time and go do that. But yeah, let me know what your favourite meta was, why, and if there's any other things that you're like, oh, that affects the meta as well, Huz, and maybe I forgot about it, put it in the comments and I'll have a read through. I'll heart some comments, reply to some, and all that good stuff. Anyway, that's going to be it. I'll see you guys next time. Like, subscribe. Peace out. Bye.